And here's a familiar face, Xuan, an Olympic veteran from China.
She was part, Tom, of the 4th place team at the Olympic Games. She's now the team leader, very experienced. This is her event. Back in 1994, she introduced a one-arm skill to the world. The judges decided they didn't want the sport going in that direction on this event, so they didn't give it the value that the Chinese had hoped they would.
Which was ridiculous, Elfie. They valued it as a C, and it was so difficult.
Transitions like those, people often complain that the bars are too far apart. We can't do anything interesting. Well, you know what? The Chinese don't complain. They create.
Look at the body line, the extension.
Here are teammates in the background.
She still has her Olympic form. That was hot stuff.
Wow. Golly, I tell you, you look at these athletes and just about every one of them is starting at 10 in these routines. All the other countries, USA, Romania, they're somewhere 9.3, 9.4 start values.
Yeah, Tim, this team has higher start values than both Romania and USA. Exquisite work. Look at how close the hands are together. Pirouetting skills into a release skill, sky high. Beautiful transitions down to the low bar. Look at her legs, completely stuck together, toes pointed, and then tops it off with an incredible dismount. Stretched out, double layout, bang.
And her score, 9.750, and smiles all around for the Chinese in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, Dominique Moceanu is here but hasn't competed yet. Must be getting a little impatient, full of energy, and over there on the sideline practicing some routines. Dobrescu, you'll remember, fell off the beam. And now for China, Chen on bars.
Again, we mentioned the Chinese having top difficulty. Of course, this has been their event. It hasn't been difficult for them to adapt to the new code of points. The value of this routine should be out of a 10.0.
Had some problems with that in warm-ups and was...
Whoa, was that close?
Barely on the bar.
Bit of a mistake there on the low bar, but she managed to do another skill to help her fight out of it. These are the transitions that are wonderful. They're difficult at the same time.
Double laid out somersault, step on the landing. A good routine, but certainly not what we saw from Xuan. The team veteran Xuan walks over to add her encouragement.
And Gina Gogean will be up on beam shortly. And Chen's score, 9.475. Must be an anxious time for the U.S. team with a bye this round and only trying to stay loose and watching the competitors and maybe worrying a little bit about the Chinese. Let's see if Gina can come up with a big performance for the Romanians to get them solidly back in the competition.
Gina hasn't committed to going the distance to the 2000 Olympic Games. She told her coach Octavian Bellew that she would commit herself to the World Championships this summer. She would hang around for this year and just see how things will go. But she's been having a little bit of a difficult time creating new routines that are quite demanding with this new code.
One of the toughest competitors I have ever seen. At the World Championships in 1994, she took one of the nastiest falls and got right back up on the beam.
But will this be enough to put the Romanians back on the beam?
Well, it certainly is doing exactly what they want, which is getting through a solid exercise. Give them a little bit of momentum back.
Setting up for a dismount. 2 flip-flops to a double tuck. It's consistent. It was clean, not exciting. The start value of that routine is only a 9.8, but she should score fairly close to that 9.8.
So you wonder about Gina's competitive fire these days, undecided about Sydney and adjusting to a new role of leadership. And it must be a time of transition for the Olympic stars. Speaking of Olympic stars, Dominique Moceanu coming up on the beam a little bit later for the United States. Here's Gina Gogean's score on the beam, 9.475. Maybe that will turn Romania around. We'll be back. We return to Cincinnati with the standings after 2 events, with the Chinese leading the U.S. and the Romanians really had a struggle on the bars in 3rd place. The Chinese have a bye here as the U.S. swings back into action with Teresa Kulikowski on the beam. Teresa, an 11th grader at Palmer High School in Colorado Springs, and adjusting to that new school for her this year.
Talked about this mount being very popular, but connecting to that jump, that's what gives Teresa an extra bonus point. Remember, the women today with the new code of points, they start from a 9.0. That means there's a full point for bonus points and special connections.
But it is a very different environment for Teresa nowadays in the gym. In the past, accustomed to training with a number of athletes on the elite level that were trying to qualify for a world or Olympic team. Now she is the only elite in her program. Her club is in Colorado Springs, the Colorado Ariels.
This is actually her first international meet in the United States. She has competed some out of the country. Much easier, she says here.
An old-time skill, an aerial front walkover. Of course, it looks great on Teresa. Long lines, great flexibility. Where she really excels is in her technique, her execution of all her skills. Very nice combination. Acro Gymnastics series, fulfilling yet another special requirement.
Must be kind of rough to be first up after sitting out all that time with the bye, and Teresa gave a pretty good account of herself.
Sorry, and you couldn't stick the landing one. All right.
Yeah, coming back after a really rough time on the uneven bars. That was a very strong and solid set.
What are you doing?
Yeah, sigh of relief after redeeming herself somewhat. Here's Claudia Presecan of Romania on floor exercise.
She actually has a little bit of international experience, was on the gold medal winning team for Romania at the 1995 World Championships, so she's been there.
Octavian Bellew didn't know how many from this squad would actually make the World Championship team this summer, but I think Claudia Presecan is probably a sure bet for that team.
Well, you know, this is a very solid event for the Romanians floor exercise, especially this team. And, you know, they really have quite an advantage because they finish on unquestionably their strongest event, vaulting. So if they can get through 4 and go on to a strong event vaulting, I think they'll do well.
And talk about recovering, Kulikowski with 9.45.